la charla es en inglés, pero sé español, o sea que si os quedáis atascados en algún momento, puedo responder preguntas en español después, pero voy a dar la charla en inglés. Intentaré no hablar muy rápido y normalmente vocalizo, así que espero que podáis seguirlas. So, hi, good morning. Thank you for coming. My name is Berta. I am an iOS developer for Nebora, working in Barcelona. And my talk is the fake problem with hiring juniors. Now, why did I do this talk? And I think this is, yeah. And the first disclaimer of the talk. At no time in this talk, I will be saying or implying that seniority or experience is not valuable. We all know it's valuable, especially like really good, real senior developers. If you want to know a little bit more what's a real senior developer, my colleague last year here in Codemotion did a talk about that. It's in Spanish, Luis Valle. You can check it out. I stand with anything that he says about senior roles. So at no time I'm talking that they don't have value or that they are not worth for a team at all. This just has nothing to do with them. It has to do about juniors. So I'm not implying it, and if I do, please tell me at the end. That would be really good feedback. So to start, I will tell you a little bit of how I end up writing this talk, because it is my story, but it kind of tells you how the whole thing is not very well defined. I will be trying really hard not to swear, but I might. So I didn't start as a coder. I actually started when I finished high school. For the people who are from here, I did a bachillerato in technical one, but I still went into photography. I went into school for photography and digital image, and I did 4 years of a degree in photography. And on the third year, I went to Erasmus to New York. And before I had to go to New York, I wanted to create a portfolio so I could basically start getting people to hire me, because I don't know if you've ever been to New York, but it's really expensive. So that was my first introduction to code. Basically, HTML, CSS, some JavaScript to do my own portfolio. And I quite liked it. And when I went to New York, I started meeting people, and some people were actually impressed by my website, even though I look at it now and I'm like, what the hell were they thinking? But they were, and I started making it for other photographers, and I started going to meetups to learn a little bit more when I got stuck. And 2 years in, I had finished my degree. My visa was about to expire, and I realized I had spent around the last year more time doing code and learning code. I had gone deep into like databases and PHP by that time than I was actually trying to book photography gigs. So I kind of had to like decide what I want to do for the rest of my life, and I chose code. And because I didn't know where to begin, I had gone to some meetups and had attended a couple of hackathons, but I had no real like formal experience. I decided to go back to school again. And that's how I felt for 4 years later. So at 22, without a degree, I was like, let's do another degree in computer systems in the middle of the United States. I don't know. It seemed like a good idea at the time, until 2 years in, I realized I hadn't done a class in programming yet. My degree in computer system had 3 required classes in code, which were mostly on Java. I took more voluntarily, then I had to fight for getting those credits, which was bizarre. And apparently that happens to a lot of people here. Not 100% sure how for programming schools work here, because I haven't gone for programming here, but I think they work sort of similar. So it didn't really help me grow as a programmer. I mean, it gave me a lot of foundations of math and systems and a lot of networking, enough to know that I didn't want to do that, but it didn't actually give me the opportunity to build something, to create something, which is what I wanted. So I kept going to the meetups, I kept going to the hackathons, and I got lucky. I found an internship on the third year about mobile. Hadn't done no mobile by the time I was hired. Don't know why they hired me, probably because they liked me, but I had done no Android development. I knew Java, but that was about it. I had done no iOS development. I didn't know Objective-C or Swift, and I had done no Unity development. I mean, C# is similar to C++, but it's an entire system. And those were the 3 things they asked me to do. And I was like, sure, give me 2 months. The place was really cool. Besides having puppies and a pizza for free on Fridays, they also taught me a lot. So I was really lucky in the sense that my first real programming job, even though that was an internship, was not only paid, but also every senior of every platform, I worked there 3 days a week, and then the other ones I went to class. So they basically, every afternoon from 4 to 6, they were teaching me and the other interns. We had a room booked, and they had the presentation prepared, and they were teaching me. And I learned more during those 8 months than I learned the 3 years and a half I had been in school. I don't know if you've been to school in the United States, it's really freaking expensive. That pissed me off a lot. That was the first thing that really bothered me. But I was really lucky, and I graduated, and I decided I wanted to go back home. By that time, I had been 6 years in the United States. A lot of things had happened. I had changed a lot, but I missed Spain, I missed Barcelona, I missed my family, and I missed the fact that beers don't cost $8 here, among other things. But yes, that one too. I wanted to go back home. So I went back home, and this was like, when I arrived, how I felt. I was a baby. I mean, I was 26. Yeah, I was 26 at the time, so I wasn't a baby, but I was a baby developer. I had no idea what I was doing half of my time. But I had worked in a company that not only encouraged me to ask questions, but also encouraged me when I did something right. So in a sense, I was like, I can do this. I can do this. I mean, 30% of my time, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I don't even know how to speak. The other 40%, I'm like completely lost, but there is a 30% there that I can do this. And my first job, I did a thing that I do not recommend any of you do, is that I got a contract to build an entire app by myself in 8 months. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I was alone. I didn't know anything. I got to know a lot of the mentors in the community online, mostly via Twitter. And I had to learn a lot of things on my own. So I worked mostly weekends. I worked double of the time that I built those people because I was completely lost, completely burned out. And when the app got shipped into the App Store, I was like, I'm done. I need to work on a team. I want to be part of the team. I want to be back to what I had before, have mentors, because I cannot. It tests the limits of what I could learn by myself. So I knew I had limitations, but also I had literally just shipped an entire iOS app to the App Store for a company. So I could code, right? That's what I thought. I mean, it should be fine. I was wrong. I was very, very, very wrong. So I started looking for jobs, and 3 months in, 2-3 months in, this was an actual rejection that I got from a company. And we say in Spain, era la gota que colmó el vaso. This was like 2 months or 3 months of rejection going, we really like you as a person. We really like you, but just call us in a year, call us in a year and a half. We just need someone with more experience. We cannot take junior developers right now, blah, blah, blah. It didn't matter that I shipped an entire app by myself that was in the App Store that they could download, that it was working. I was a junior developer. I didn't have 3 to 5 years of experience, which I don't know why is that a number, very specific. And I didn't have that entire list of requirements. Like, I didn't know what a CI was because I built the app by myself. What's CI? I'm the only one who's doing commits. Like, pull request? It's just me. What the hell? So they were like, entire list of requirements, and they were like, just come back again in like 2 years. And this was like the end. It was July by that time, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the summer off. I'm just gonna figure out my life. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but maybe I was wrong, and maybe coding is not for me. I'm obviously a developer, so something changed, but I was this close for going, I'm gonna swear, okay, I was this close from going, fuck it, I'm done. Like, if no one is gonna give me a job, I can do this on the side. I like coding, I'm gonna keep coding, I'm just gonna work on something else, right? And that's kind of what got me, because I got the job that I have now, and they didn't care about these things, and they spent around 2 months that they were sort of training. So I was pairing with a bunch of people in different projects, but I wasn't billable to the clients, but I was doing actual work. And 2 months in, they actually put me on a project, as in charged me to the client for the project. And 3 weeks after that, I was in Munich doing a release for an app that goes to like 4 million people, and doing a bug fix at the end, and basically for the entire team. And then we went out for beers. I was like, this went actually really well with all the problems. And my lead was like, I'm so happy you're on the team. We're so much better now. I was like, it's been 3 months from this. And I just fixed a bug to an app that goes to like 4 million people, and I was actually helping. I was like, what changed? Did I change that much? Honestly, no. I mean, I learned a bunch of things about Jira and code reviews and PRs, but code-wise, in 3 months, I haven't really advanced that much. I had a little bit, but it wasn't that big of a difference. And I was like, what the fuck? That was bullshit. Which that's how I started writing the talk in my head. That was absolute bullshit. Like, I could do this. I was right the first time. Why the hell the other people couldn't see it? Fun fact, that company actually contacted me 6 months after that and asked me to come, no need to do the interview again. So like, if you 6 months later, you change your mind, you're not doing something right. And it also made me think of, as I said before, I was really lucky. So I got almost to the point of leaving code, not being a coder. And yet, I had a bunch of lists of privileges. Not only I'm white, which helps, I am also, my parents have enough money to send me to the United States to learn how to code, and at the same time, learn English, right? I had, basically, I had enough money that I could take the time off in the summer if I wanted. Like, I didn't have children. I didn't have anyone depending on me or a mortgage. So I could have taken that time. I had mentors that had mentored me before, but also the senior developers at my past company in Brooklyn had kept in contact with me. I have entire chain long emails with them when I was lost at the beginning. The Twitter community on iOS is actually really nice. I had people on a Skype calls teaching me about multi-threading on a Saturday night. Like, I've met those people before at conference, and I was like, thank you so much. I owe you a beer. And they were like, it's nothing. I was like, what? I was lucky. I also had a network. When I started, when I moved to Barcelona, me and a friend started Women Who Code in Barcelona. And I met a lot of amazing coders through that work in really good companies. So I had an entire network of basically people inside of those companies that could recommend me for the job. Right? I had all of those privileges, and yet I almost just gave up on code. So the scary part for me when I realized everything that just happened in the past 4 months was, what happens when someone doesn't have all 3 of those? What happens when someone only has 1 of those privileges? What happens when someone has none? So I do a lot of meetups I organize a lot of meetups for tech people with Women Who Code, and we get tons of emails for recruiters. And we get a lot of recruiters from the meetups, and they're always like, I don't know how to hire more people. There is a pipeline problem. We don't find really good developers. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm a good one, and I almost left. I have all of these privileges, and I almost left. Not everyone has all of this. So the question is, how many people have just left? How many people have we lost that could have been really good coworkers, who have been amazing team members? How much money do companies and teams spend looking for that perfect developer for 6 months instead of just thinking, maybe we can train someone? So that's where my talk comes from. And this is a chart that I quite like from Eric Elliott that posted it on Twitter, and this was the results. And these are the 5, he asked basically, what makes a really good developer and what makes a really bad developer. And I quite like it because the only thing that has to do about code, you can find me on that, but I think so, is incompetent on the bad and skilled on good. So yeah, it is on the top 1 on bad and the top 2 on good, but it's not even the first one on good, and there's 5 other things that you can do. So yeah, being skilled at coding is important, right? And not being competent, but it's also, we all have had probably at one time or another coworkers who are really good at what they do, and you still don't want to work with them. There is a reason for that. And code can be learned. That's the point. You can say, well, this person needs to learn a little bit. Well, yeah, you can teach them. But if that person is arrogant, narcissistic, uncooperative, and doesn't want to work on a team, that's much harder to learn than JavaScript. It is much harder to change someone's personality than to teach them another skill. And that's another thing that got to me. After being a developer for like an actual company with a team for about a year and a half now, I realized that half of my job, more than half of the time, it's not even code. It's about people and it's about learning. And I don't mean that learning code, but also learning how to deal with people, learning how to do sprints plannings, how to do new frameworks that come up, and also basically learning a new code base. I work for consultancy. That means I get changed from code base to code base every 6 to 8 months. That ability for me to pick up new code base and pick up the context quite fast, it's important. It's completely necessary, right? And yet, every job interview that you do, they evaluate you on the first thing, on code. That's 1 of 3. I had the 2 of 3, because I don't know if you've ever done a photo shoot, but it involves a lot of planning and a lot of people, and you are basically the architect of that shoot. You have to manage an entire team that is probably costing you money, because photographers usually pay for everything, and it's costing everything, and you are the contact with the client, which is usually like magazines or advertisements. So the whole part of like learning, I had it. The whole part of people and team building, I had. It's just the code part was a bit lower, but that's 1 of 3. Why the hell will I not be a valuable member of the team? I don't get it. I still don't think that's correct, and I still don't get it. Like, if we put all that list of requirements on technical roles, and then half of our job doesn't have to be about being in front of a computer writing code. We keep evaluating people for one thing when we do so many other things besides just writing code. So that pissed me off. And I've done this talk before, first at meetups and then at other conferences, and I've talked to a lot of people to get a lot of information. And this is the thing that they usually come up with the most. I really like your talk, it was really nice, I understand, it makes sense, but our team right now cannot afford a junior developer. Our team right now, we don't have the company, we don't have the capacity to have one. And I usually try to be nice, and I usually laugh, but basically what it boils down, I was gonna put my own quote, but it's hard to not tell people to go the hell. So I put someone else's quote, and that way you cannot actually fight me on this. But every time they say that, it reminds me of this. If you say that you don't have time that your team doesn't have time or the capacity to have a junior developer, what you're telling me is basically that you need people who you can throw literally on the fire and they will figure it out. So you don't have a team, you don't have a structure. You just have chaos and really smart people who are gonna burn themselves trying to fix the chaos. That's not a good thing, and you should not be saying that to people, because no one is going. Because right now, my immediate thought when you say that is, "Do you need another job? Do you want me to help you find another job? Are you okay? When was the last time you got home at 6 p.m.?" Like, that's the first thing I think of. So, like, if you say that you cannot, for me, if you cannot afford a junior developer, it means you don't have a good team. It means this is your developers every day. And there is so long someone can live like this. And it's usually around 6 to 8 months that someone can actually live in that chaos of fire. Because, yeah, we love coding. Most people are really passionate about it. Most people will do it on the weekends. But we're also humans, and we deserve a freaking life. And this is 8 hours of our day. And if it gets to more hours every day and weekends and stress, because when you go to sleep, you're still thinking of the freaking code, and you are on the weekend, you're still thinking of that, there's going to be a moment that the pay, what they are paying, doesn't matter how many ping pong tables you have, how many free beers you have, that person is going to quit. Because no one can live like that, period. So you need an actual development team. Yes, you cannot actually hire junior developers right now in your team. You need an actual development team. An actual development team means there is a process and there's organization. And there's a clear specified rules of what people do. If you have that, you can actually hire junior developers. And if you don't have it, hiring junior developers should not be your problem, should be fixing your actual team. Because then we wonder why developers change jobs in less than a year. Because you get into these situations, and I've met a lot of people who are in these situations. So if you are, try to find a way to fix it in your company. And if you can, honestly, move on. Move on. There are better companies. It's fine. But this is a problem. But if you have that, if you have an actual manager and a technical manager, you have clear specified roles, there's an actual documentation, not only on the code, but on the process around code, you can implement a junior developer in your team quite easily and without a lot of friction. So yeah, this is not how it works. The developers' teams should not work as fire. You should not be able to throw someone into the fire and go like, fix it. We are a team and we build things together. We're not supposed to be 3 people that just sit side by side and try to put out fires every day for like 8 hours. We're not firemen. That's a different type of work. So we're in this together. You can put junior developers on your team. And they can also bring a lot of things into your team. Now, this is a good slide to take a photo if you need to convince someone higher up into your company. But they are actually, for what I've seen of my contributions to my team, and now we have people who are more junior than I am, they actually help a lot team-wise. I mean, obviously, they're junior developers, so they might not help as in building code, but it changes the entire attitude of the team. It forces a lot of these learning opportunities. They question everything. That's happened to me, and I've done it to other people. But they will go like, why are you using this? And then you have to explain it. And the last time this happened, I asked why we were using a type of dispose bag on RX, on Swift. And my senior stood like that for like 4 seconds. He was like, that's a good question. And we went into a 3-hour search of documentation about the type of dispose bags, implemented into a playground, and then teach the rest of the team. So now there is 12 developers on our team in Nebuda that know all 4 different types of dispose bags and which one is better for what. Because I had one question, a very valid question, and he didn't have the answer, and now he knows more, and he's better at his job for that. They question everything. They make you reassess what you know, because there's no better way to learn something than having to explain it to someone else. They help you mentor people. It is incredible how a developer changes when they stop being just coding in front of a computer and start mentoring other people. Their work gets better. They get more compassionate, more empathic. It just makes the team work better. There are a lot of other ones that I put, but mostly that's the thing. It also promotes a lot of exchange of information, because I had a question, that information was spoken out loud in the office in Barcelona. Other people could hear it, but a lot of times I also ask questions on Slack. That information gets recorded. You don't know on big teams there's always someone who knows more than one subject than the other. This information exchange should be happening. Junior developers basically just force that for you, which is really good. And this is a bunch of slides. Mostly they are based on my thoughts and like what helped me. So you could, the examples on the right, you could like change them a little bit. But what makes like a junior dev into a good dev? How you can turn them into a good developer? Now, a small disclaimer is that I don't think a good developer is someone that knows a system very well or a language very well. These things keep changing. We've had, iOS is a very good example, and so is Android. We've had really good developers who knew Objective-C very well and have a lot of years in experience, and then Swift came up. And not only changed the language itself, but also how you code. The entire architecture and the way you do apps changed with the language, which is actually really fascinating and really cool. But you put someone who's really good on Objective-C to Swift, and they don't want to do that change, and they're going to do shit Swift code. I've seen it. It is absolutely terrible, and it's completely unmaintainable. So when I mean good developer, I never mean someone who knows a system very well. But that's my opinion. That's just a small disclaimer. So for me, a lot of the people that say what a junior is and one of the pitfalls that they have is, oh, they don't understand very complex architecture programming. I didn't. There are some things that are still fuzzy to me. So one of the things that my company did very well is that they include me on all these presentations. So there was someone on the Berlin office talking about the architecture of one app, and they would call me on Hangouts, and I would be just there listening to those people discuss what new architecture was going to have. I came up with a bunch of questions I could ask later. I came up with solutions, but I also learned not only the process of like what good architecture is and which one to use, but by seeing them discuss this, by seeing them come up to this solution, I learned what makes you choose one architecture over the other. I learned why. That's invaluable. Like there's no book that could have told me that. There's no school that could have told me that. The only way that I would have learned that by myself would be making those mistakes over and over and realizing that after one app of one bad architecture, that's why this one didn't work. But in this way, it took me 2 hours in an afternoon, and they just did the meeting as they normally do, but with a hangout call and a girl looking at them. That's it. For them, it changed nothing, and for me, it was invaluable. And also one thing that helps me a lot, especially every time I go into a new project, is I ask if there is any architecture documentation. And then if there is none, I build it. It helps me not make me feel like the first 2 weeks I'm not doing anything. And it helps me, for example, learn the architecture, and then I have it written down. So by the time I'm gone of this project, there is an actual architecture documentation. Junior developer is perfect for that, because it's going to ask a lot of questions, yes, but it's also going to be doing something that you don't want to do, because none of us wants to actually sit down and spend 3 days writing a markdown documentation on the architecture we created. So, and they learn. It's a small little tweaks that you can do. Like, they're going to introduce bugs to the code. Well, I mean, code reviews exist. No one should work without code reviews, because it's not about only like our juniors developers introducing bugs. It's about there are sometimes we're tired and hangover, and we can introduce bugs also. So yeah, code review. Also, I would recommend read clean code. I don't like Uncle Bob, but read clean code. And they don't go deep into frameworks. They know how to use it, but they don't understand. That still happens to me with some frameworks. Pair with them. Teach them the things that they don't know. You might learn something new about a framework also. Like, they just literally need time. Give them that time. And they need occasional guidance. Yeah, that's fine. But also one of the things, we all need occasional guidance and everything. Like, for example, one of my seniors on my job doesn't know how to do animations, because it's never like basic ones, yes, but something difficult doesn't. So when he had a job like that, he had to contact someone else on the team. That's normal. Why would you think that's not normal? Like, makes sense. Some people are specialized in one thing and others in the other, so why would that be an issue? Do tech daily discussions. Have one meeting a week of all your developers that they share something cool they've been working on. They're working on different bugs. They're working on different features. They're working on different parts of an app or a web app. They encourage conversation and learning within yourself. Because even if you don't have junior developers, even if you just have mids and seniors, a person who's mid, there's going to be a moment they're going to want to go to senior. And if you don't have a tracking place for them to learn inside of your company, they're going to go to somewhere where they can actually learn to become a senior. They're going to go somewhere where they're actually recognized as one. And you're going to lose talent. And not only are you going to lose talent, if that person has been working on your team for 1.5 years, they have a very specific knowledge of that code base. And they're going to leave. And if you don't have a learning opportunity for all of your developers to be together and share that information, they're going to take that knowledge with them. So good luck replacing that person. It's not going to happen. It's going to make you very slow, and it's going to take you 6 months. You're going to end up paying 1.5 more that you paid that guy for a new person to come because, well, he'd know a lot, so obviously we need to hire a senior now to replace him. And it's going to be a mess. But one of the points that my company makes a lot, and I think it's very powerful, is that when you look at a piece of code, you should not be able to tell who made it. My code should be irrelevant. Me leaving the team should be irrelevant in the sense of you should not be able to tell that I made it. I should not be invaluable in the sense of coding. If I am removed from the team and put on another project, that project shouldn't fail without me. That makes absolutely no sense. That would be like you hire an electrician to wire your house, right? And he makes it in a way that no other electrician in the freaking world can actually maintain it. You would never hire this person. Like, why would you do that to yourself? So and they are afraid to ask for help. This is tricky. This is the trickiest one. And this is a culture problem. And if you see that your junior developers or interns are afraid to ask for help, start asking for help yourself. Start the communication yourself from a position of power, position of leadership, and get them to a point, get your team and your company to a point where asking for help, it is not an issue. It's not a problem, and it's not something bad. It is one of the trickiest ones because it has to do with people, and people are tricky. But it's also one of the most important ones, because if your junior developers are afraid to ask for help, so are your mid-level, so are your seniors. And they might make some mistakes that they will try to hide instead of asking for help. And then 8 months later, you're going to be fixing that mistake at 11 p.m. on a Friday. And no one wants to do that. So resume is good developer is better than experienced developer. Grow your talent versus hiring. If you can get someone to the place that you need in 3 months or 4, that's completely worth it. Also, that person will be invested in your team. Why wouldn't you do that? Yeah, junior doesn't mean useless. Please never say that to anyone, that they cannot deliver value to a team no matter their level of experience. That is absolutely terrible to say to a human being. I know, because I've been told that. Don't say that, please, be better. And you should have a training track for everyone, for every developer on your team, because we're all gonna keep learning and code is gonna change, new frameworks are gonna come. And if you don't have that, your team is gonna be stale, your development is gonna be stale, and people are gonna leave. And that's not something anyone wants. And that's my talk, and that's my Twitter. And that's all the memes I wasn't able to put on the presentation, but I still liked. But I couldn't find a way to put them. So yeah, thank you for coming. No?
Does anybody have any questions?
I can answer questions in Spanish if you want to.
Sure. Okay.
Hi. Firstly, thank you very much for your presentation. I think it was wonderful and amazing to learn from somebody as young as you. Is amazing. So my question is a little bit tricky. It's about that stage of recruitment. Mm-hmm. You were saying that it should include 3 stages. That is the coding, the people, and the learning.
Yes.
For myself, I see really clearly how you can assess the coding stage and the people also. Mm-hmm. You can be with them like 2 hours, meeting with them and see how they behave. But how about the learning? If I ask them about the learning, they usually are going to tell me that that they do courses on Coursera or Udacity, and that. But how do you feel that you could really assess that?
So we have a trick. We have 2 different types of tricks when we do it in Nebuda. One is we ask about iOS things that came out quite recently. So we have we have every WWDC every year. So we will ask something that came out of that year. Usually it's like less than a year. So if the person can answer that, that means that at least they made an effort to learn about something about their job for the past year. So that's very code specific. But my favorite one is we ask them things that have nothing to do with code. So we usually have a hangout call before they go through the process of code, which is about seeing what type of person they are. So we will ask them, for example, recommend us a book. And I don't mean a code book. I meant something you're interested. A lot of people come with history or philosophy or something that they're reading. And if it's not a book, it can be a film or a TV show. We get them to a point to see if they have passion for anything in their life, if there is anything that they are just learning on their own and building as people. If they do it for people, we can get them to do it for code. Just a different type of people. But it's much comfortable for people to, especially in a job interview, to talk about themselves, about their hobbies and about what they do, than to talk about code. We had one that was basically training for a marathon. That takes a shit ton of commitment. Will never do it myself. He woke up at 5 a.m. every morning. I will hire that person on the spot. He can wake up at 5 a.m. every morning for 6 months to train for a marathon that no one is paying him to do. That's great. I will never do that. So that usually helps us a lot.
Okay. There was.
Hola, te pregunto en español, ¿vale?
Tranquilo.
Sin problema. Has hablado de code review como una forma de, entendido, aprender o ayudar a los juniors. ¿Podría ir code review en ambos sentidos? Es decir, un junior ayudar a un senior y un senior ayudar a un junior a hacer reviews.
Claro.
¿O qué visión tienes?
Claro, y además yo me di cuenta de que yo ayudaba mucho en una cosa que parece muy tonta, pero que era naming. O sea, a mí los primeros PRs me daban escalofríos a veces y era como, ¿cómo vaya a hacer review de esto? Pero me di cuenta de que tenía muchas preguntas en el sentido de, ¿qué hace esta función? Y dice, bueno, la función tiene un nombre. Y yo, ya, pero no me lo explica nada. No me explica el contexto de nada. Y esas preguntas son muy valuables. Ahora que me sé el contexto de la app, cuando me dicen esas preguntas, para mí es increíble porque es como, oh coño, en 3 meses no me voy a ni acordar de yo, de que voy a hacer esa función. Entonces, eso es lo más, para juniors es lo más fácil, ¿sabes? No te van a ver si has hecho bien el filter o el reduce o lo que sea, pero te pueden decir, oye, ¿por qué coño esta clase está llamada así? ¿Qué hace esto? Y tú te vas a tener que explicar el por qué haces esto. Y lo más probable es que si no lo puede entender un junior, es que las caga un poquito.
Me parece interesante. Muchas gracias.
Hi. How do you measure if you are going to do a good job with hiring junior devs?
Well, there's always, at least in Spain, like a 3 months probation. So you should be able to tell in 3 months. But our, particularly our hiring process is a little bit different than most people. We don't make people do tech on their own and then bring us a project. We actually have them come into the office and pair with us. Someone online and someone so 45 minutes each and someone in person. And one of the things that we're looking is not only if they can do the code, but also how open they are to suggestions. How when I do a kata, which is a pain in the ass, which is translating decimals to Roman numerals. That's a hard algorithm to crack. I've been 45 minutes recruiting seniors, and they haven't been able to. I don't expect them to finish it. But you can. The only person that I'm using this kata that I actually said no to hire was because, well, 2 people. One he got stuck and just couldn't figure out, as in not couldn't figure out, just that was it. He gave up. He didn't try to like look for anything online or like accept my suggestions and keep moving. Try another way. He was just like, I'm blank. I'm sorry. I cannot do this anymore. I want the interview to stop. And the other was completely belligerent about my suggestions. He was getting himself into a bad problem that I could see was not going to work out because I've done this kata 8 times. And when I was trying to help him, he was completely belligerent. So this, for us, it reflects more of what could happen day to day than just a stale piece of code someone sends you by email that you don't know when they finished, how long it took them, or who actually wrote it. So for us, that's what we look for. We look for someone that if they find a problem that you have never found before, even if they don't have an answer, they try to get there. We allow them to go on Google and search for things because that's half of my job. I would challenge you to put your computer on Wi-Fi off and code and tell me how long you go until you go on Google. My max is 2 hours. Never been able to break that record. So let me know. Put on Twitter. I'm very interested. So why would you expect someone to do something that is not your real job? Sometimes we have the interviews actually pair while we do actual bugs on client projects. They don't have to do anything. They're just there with us. We try to basically see on the interview process what it would be to have this person work next to us on real problems. Because we don't have all the answers, obviously. I don't have all the answers and things keep changing. The important part is someone who's going to help you figure them out. More than just someone that always has the right answer, because that person is wrong.
Okay, last question.
Thank you so much for the talk. I have learned a lot, very inspiring. I lead a team of a remote team, so you can imagine that introduces a new level of complexity to the problem. So I wonder if you have experience in that, or if you have any advice.
Yeah, Nebura is actually completely remote. So I'm in the office of Barcelona, but it's actually a room in a co-working. There's 5 of us. There is another office in Berlin and another office in London and another one in Liverpool. And there's people who are completely fully remote. One of them is in Mexico. So we do everything remotely. We have technical guilds every 2 weeks of iOS, of Android also. You can join as many as you want on Hangouts, where people share things and like little bugs that they found. The last one on Android, I learned how to basically do a photo booth using the Google API app. I don't know if I'm ever going to use that, but it was interesting. And the team has a Slack channel, and we do a lot of pairing through Slack. Like you can just call on Slack and do a lot of pairing. So yesterday I got stuck because I wasn't sure if I was understanding listeners well, and I was in Madrid here at like a co-working, and basically I just contact my team, and they were all busy, so I contacted another iOS developer who was working on a completely different project, and I was like, hey, you have 5 minutes? I think I'm going insane. And we called, and I showed them my screen, and they were like, no, you were right, this is working correctly. And I was like, cool, thank you, man. And that's it. It took 10 minutes of his time. So we do that a lot, and we try to stay as connected as possible. So we encourage people to post things on Slack, post solutions that you find to little problems. So yeah, it gets kind of busy, Slack, in the end, which kind of sucks. But usually at the end of the day, I just look through everything. But we are quite connected that way. So it feels a little bit better, but it also has a very good culture of me going to a team member and going, hey, do you have 5 minutes? I'm stuck on something. And I know that if they have them, they're going to give them to me, and no one is going to think less of me for that. And that's very important. I'd never feel like I'm bothering any of my coworkers by asking questions. And that's an incredibly important thing, and that's something they foster a lot, because you get a buddy when you enter the company, no matter your level of seniority, and that person always makes sure that you know that. So the first months, you basically have a shadow, even if it's a remote shadow, that just like ask you, like, how are you? Are you stuck? Ask me questions. So from the beginning, it just feels like, okay, I can ask questions. No one's going to think badly of me. We also have all tech hands every month, and you actually get a prize if you share the worst tech mistake you've done that month. And a lot of people share it because it's much easier to share worst tech mistake than the best thing you did, although that's also there. And you get like this little monkey that goes around. It's been to Mexico and Poland and Barcelona and things, and you get chocolate sent to you for winning, for making the worst mistake. I won it once by creating 4 retain cycles with 1 line of code. That was like 2 months ago. So it's a joke. It's something funny. You win something by failing and by sharing that failure with your team. So it's very destigmatized, which is what helps us.
Well, thank you very much.